I'm not retired yet, my friend. No, no, they
Go
can
ahead,
say
go
what they can say whatever they want, but you know, it's not that easy. One fight, don't put in that position. You need to do a lot of things.
Canelo Álvarez thinks you're not a 54 pounder. In other words, you say, nah, he's too small.
That's his take. There's a reason why Israel was so respectful in the fight. Anytime I let my hands go, he would grab me or move.
Terence "Bud" Crawford has never been one to hold his tongue, and his recent comments about Canelo Álvarez are a clear reflection of that. Crawford didn't mince words when he said that Canelo's name is losing its impact in the boxing world. His statement came in response to rumors about being placed on the undercard of Canelo's upcoming fight, something he clearly took as an insult. This isn't some distant issue. It's happening right now and highlights the shifting landscape of boxing, along with the growing tension between two of the sport's biggest names.
No, Canelo is great. We all know he's big. We all know he's strong. He got good timing. He got good punching power. He moves his head well. He's a good counter puncher. We all know all that things about Canelo, you know, but we never seen Terence Crawford at 168. So we don't know. We don't know if Terence Crawford can take his punch power. We don't know if Canelo is going to be able to box, you know, toe for toe.
Here's the situation. Terence Crawford's much-anticipated rematch with Errol Spence Jr., a showdown that has the entire welterweight division talking, was reportedly set to be featured on the undercard of Canelo Álvarez's next fight. The news left fans baffled and frustrated. How could one of boxing's top pound-for-pound stars, who decisively beat Spence in their first bout, be relegated to a supporting slot? The explanation comes down to numbers. Despite Canelo's legendary reputation, his recent pay-per-view sales and ticket performance have been lackluster. His last few fights, especially those against Gennady Golovkin and Dmitry Bivol, failed to deliver the excitement or audience pull expected. Now, adding to the controversy, Crawford vs. Spence 2, about many see as the real headliner, is being pushed into the background by the dimming spotlight of Canelo's brand.
It happen. I mean, why not? If Crawford want to challenge himself to be great, let him try to be great. You know, so you know what I'm saying, I'm with it. So you know, I'll be going for Bud. You know, if he fight Canelo, I'll be going for him. I mean, I don't know if he gonna win or lose, but I'll definitely be going for Crawford. I think if anybody can put it off, he can put it off.
As expected, Crawford didn't stay quiet after what many perceived as a blatant show of disrespect. His comments about Canelo weren't just personal, they were a direct challenge to the shifting power dynamics in boxing. From Crawford's perspective, he's the one who's dominated the welterweight scene, especially after dismantling Errol Spence Jr. in a performance that cemented his status as one of the sport's pound-for-pound elites. Talk of a potential Crawford vs. Canelo showdown has sparked debate, with many calling it a 50-50th fight based on recent form. But Crawford isn't buying it. He points out that Canelo's last three opponents, an undisputed champion, a rising ex-champion, and an undefeated contender, are now being weighed against his next opponent, Israil Madrimov. And somehow that makes it a 50-50th. He scoffs. Wow.
Canelo, based on last fight, is a 50-50. So Canelo fights an undisputed champ, up-and-coming former champion, and an up-and-coming undefeated contender. And somehow those three last opponents are somehow compared to Bud's Madrimov fight, making it a 50-50 fight?
Doesn't anyone want to see knockouts anymore? I come from a different era, an era where fighters went to war in the ring. We stepped between the ropes to break our opponents down, not dance around them. I still took the Pacquiao fight, even when my body was worn out and I was past my prime. I knew I probably couldn't win, but I stepped up anyway. That's what warriors do. That's the mindset of a real champion. Canelo? He's chasing paydays, not greatness. He's been dodging fighters like Benavidez and Bivol, guys who could really challenge him and, in Bivol's case, already have. Just like Mayweather once did, they've exposed him. Canelo's no longer hunting legacy, he's just riding out his career to retirement.
I want to see knockouts. I'm from a different time in this sport when fighters went to war in the ring. We wanted to destroy our opponents. I still took the Pacquiao fight knowing my body was broken and old and I couldn't beat him. But I was a warrior. I wanted to be a legend. It's a different mentality, a champion's mentality. Canelo wants to get paid. He avoids Benavidez and Bivol, who schooled him just like Mayweather. He wants to cruise easily into retirement.
Canelo Álvarez, once regarded as nearly unbeatable, has started to show clear signs of vulnerability. His loss to Dmitry Bivol revealed serious flaws in his game, and his choice to stay at super middleweight rather than seek a rematch at light heavyweight left many questioning his hunger for true competition. What once looked like a dominant legacy now increasingly appears to be a series of calculated decisions, prioritizing big paydays over real challenges. The Canelo's recent performances have drawn criticism, and his failure to secure the fights fans truly want, like a showdown with Terence Crawford or a clash with David Benavidez, has only intensified the skepticism. In contrast, Crawford continues to raise the bar. His dominant knockout win over Errol Spence Jr. not only showcased his elite skill set, but also reinforced his position as the sport's top pound-for-pound fighter.
I got the speed over Canelo. I got the reach over him. He might got the size, the power. I got the better skills, boxing skills.
Would it be more of a cat and mouse? The reality is Canelo does put people out. From Kirkland to Amir Khan to just...
Don't do
obviously,
I'm just saying, man.
No, but he's not. Kovalev.
Kovalev was older. He does.
Billy Joe.
Don't get me wrong. He does have a lot of power, but all those guys that you name is not as skillful as me. I'm sorry. No.
The tension doesn't end there. Turki Alalshik, a major figure in the Saudi sports scene and a key architect of the region's combat sports boom, has recently hinted at even bigger matchups ahead for both Terence Crawford and Canelo Álvarez. According to Alalshik, both fighters could be part of a massive upcoming boxing event that may overshadow their current bouts. This revelation adds yet another twist to an already tangled storyline. Could Crawford's rematch with Spence be just a warm-up for an even bigger stage in Saudi Arabia? And is Canelo, once the sport's brightest star, now relying on rising forces like Crawford to keep himself relevant as his prime begins to slip away? This isn't just about Canelo's fading star power. It's about the future of boxing and a shift in the sport's power structure. New generation fighters like Terence Crawford are rising fast, and they're not interested in following the outdated rules of the old promotional system. It's a clear sign that the old guard is being challenged head-on. While the heavyweight division is enjoying a resurgence, the same kind of energy is now building in the lower weight classes. Crawford, with his elite skill set and fearless willingness to face the best, is blazing a new trail, one that's redefining what it truly means to be the pound-for-pound king. His blunt criticism of Canelo's lackluster ticket sales is more than just trash talk. It's a statement of intent. Crawford isn't waiting for the throne to be handed over. He's coming to take it on his terms.
Would you ever entertain a fight with Benavidez?
Benavidez is a big dude. Not to say I won't fight him, but the only reason why I entertain Canelo is because he's not a big dude. He might be thick, you know what I mean, but he's not a big dude. Benavidez is like 6 foot something, come in 190, 200 probably, you know what I mean? I might as well go to heavyweight if I fight Benavidez.
Canelo Álvarez is now facing the hard truth about his career. 4 years, he reigned as the undisputed king of boxing, the face of the sport. But by 2023, that narrative began to unravel. Doubts about his ability to perform at the highest level have been mounting, and his growing reliance on other major names to sell his events only highlights his decline. In contrast, Terence Crawford is at the peak of his career. His dominant win over Errol Spence Jr. was a statement performance, one that left little room for debate over who holds the crown in boxing today. Yet, despite his clear superiority, Crawford finds himself relegated to the undercard of a man he no longer considers the sport's top attraction. Crawford isn't alone in this view. Even David Benavidez has openly called Canelo overrated, signaling that more and more fighters are beginning to question the myth of Canelo's dominance.
To fight the best in the division. I'm #1 in the division, #1 contender. The second one is David Morrell. He's not fighting me, nor he's not fighting David Morrell. So it makes no sense. How is he going to call himself the champion and have all these belts if he doesn't fight the #1 or the #2 guys? Why is he asking $200 million? Why, when they bring my name up?
Canelo Álvarez is once again sparking debates in the boxing world. But this time, the discussion isn't centered on a controversial scorecard or a sanctioning body. The focus now is whether Canelo can not only survive but thrive in the land of giants. New footage has surfaced showing the Mexican superstar sparring with undefeated heavyweight contender Frank Sanchez, and it's already causing a stir in the sport. For those who've watched Canelo's journey from 147 to 175 pounds, this shouldn't come as a complete shock. The fighter who built his legacy in the welterweight division has always been one to push boundaries and break through limitations.
My personal opinion, he's ducking Benavidez. You know, that's just my personal opinion. And I'm allowed to to speak my mind. That's just what it is. He's going up. He's going up to cruiser, and I'm not knocking him, but he's going up to cruiserweight. And that same guy with that, he used to be at the Mayweather boxing gym. The guys really getting the best of him in the Mayweather.
Canelo Álvarez made history when he stopped Sergey Kovalev at light heavyweight to claim a world title, and at one point, he even set his sights on cruiserweight Ilunga Makabu, a challenge the WBC surprisingly approved in 2021. At the time, it seemed absurd, and it still does. But Canelo has never been one to be confined by conventional limits. Now, with new footage showing him sparring against a 6 feet 4 inches, 220 pounds heavyweight like Frank Sanchez, those once unthinkable ideas are resurfacing. It seems Canelo's relentless desire to break barriers is only intensifying.
Canelo faced an elite boxer, he arguably lost.
Hey,
Danny Jacobs?
Arguably doesn't matter.
Danny Jacobs is not elite.
What?
Stop.
What?
Stop.
This dude is funny.
Stop.
He needs to Google the scorecards on the Triple G.
The footage isn't exactly violent. Sanchez wasn't trying to knock out Canelo, but even in light sparring, Canelo's confidence and movement speak volumes. He may be shorter and significantly lighter in weight, but is far from intimidated. And this isn't just talk from the gym. His trainer, Eddie Reynoso, was candid with ESPN. "I know what Canelo has done with the heavyweights he spars with, and that's why we asked for the fight." The fight Reynoso refers to may never fully come to fruition. The proposed cruiserweight bout with Ilunga Makabu never materialized, and with Makabu losing his title to Badou Jack, the same Jack who made headlines for attacking 2 referees in separate incidents, that path seems closed for now. However, it's no longer hard to imagine Canelo setting his sights on a potential heavyweight title shot down the line, even if it only serves as a historical footnote.
That will be talked about for years.
Yeah.
When I'm gone, they'll talk about, man, you remember Crawford coming up to 168 and fighting Canelo? 2 top 5 pound for pound fighters in the world, in their prime, fighting each other. Like, man, that's...
Yeah, but I also feel, Terence, that Canelo's just in a different place, man. I think he...
The online reaction has been predictably chaotic. Some fans are genuinely excited by the idea of Canelo becoming the first fighter in history to win titles from welterweight all the way to heavyweight. Others see it as a delusional fantasy, created to salvage his reputation after the tough loss to Dmitry Bivol. One comment stood out amid the noise. "This is what a typical Canelo fight looks like. Canelo walking forward like a zombie while the other guy doesn't even try." Another user called the footage disrespectful to the sweet science, pointing out that Frank Sanchez wasn't attempting to hurt Canelo. However, these criticisms miss an important point. No one spars with a 220-pound powerhouse unless they believe they belong in that ring. And that's exactly why many in the pro boxing world are hesitant about this potential fight.
I don't like the fight because Terence Crawford is a good fighter, but in the sport of boxing, it has divisions. You know what I mean,
Right, weight classes,
right? Yeah, weight classes.
For a reason.
Weight classes yeah. And Terence Crawford is a good fighter in super lightweight, welterweight, super welterweight, but I think more. I remember when Terence Crawford fought with...
This matters now more than ever because the conversation surrounding Canelo isn't just about weight. It's about who truly deserves the opportunity to share the ring with him next. William Skull is reportedly set to face Canelo on May 3rd. A fight many are dismissing as a stay-busy bout, a meaningless match for most fans. But it's laying the groundwork for something much bigger. And here's where things get complicated. That something bigger might not involve David Benavidez or David Morrell, as many purists had hoped. Instead, it could be Terence "Bud" Crawford, an idea that, of course, is already sparking its own wave of controversy.
Triple G on Bud's resume. There's no Trout on Bud's resume. There's no Daniel Jacobs on Bud's resume. Canelo is the one that's fought the elite level opposition. It's Canelo that fought Laura. There is no Laura on Bud's resume. There is no Laura on Bud's resume. Bud has never faced a multiple division champ. Bud has never faced a multiple division champ.
Yeah, but Bud is an elite boxer.
So you're an elite boxer, but you haven't fought a...
Turki Alalshik, the Saudi power broker with millions backing him, is at the heart of it all. Recently, he hinted that even bigger fights could be in the works for both Terence Crawford and Canelo Álvarez, sending fans into a frenzy. The big question on everyone's mind, if not each other, then who? That said, the Crawford vs Canelo fight is still very much on the table. But not everyone is in favor of the matchup. Trainer Abel Sanchez went on a full tirade, dismissing the fight as nothing more than a payday spectacle. He mocked Crawford's ambitions to jump from 154 to 168 without earning the chance. "Canelo is the face of boxing," Sanchez said bluntly. "This is going to be a sparring session. Canelo will punch holes in the aging Nebraska native."
All the crazy stuff about me going up and having a tough time, but he went up in weight and lost. That's the difference. I went up weight and won. He went up and lost. You know, so let's not do it.
Abel Sanchez didn't pull any punches. He tore into Crawford, calling him old, inactive, too small, and flat out unqualified for a fight with Canelo. He mocked the idea that Crawford was chasing legacy, accusing him instead of chasing a payday. If it was really about legacy, Sanchez said, Bud would move up to 168 and face David Benavidez, David Morrell, or even Canelo himself. He questioned whether it was too much to ask Crawford to make the sacrifices necessary to earn that massive payday. To be fair, there's some merit to this skepticism. Crawford's most recent performance against Israel Madrimov at 154 raised doubts, as he didn't look like the dominant force who decimated Errol Spence. Instead, he appeared flat, slower, and uncertain. Now, picture adding 14 more pounds and standing in front of a granite-chinned, 168-pound powerhouse like Canelo, who's built a career out of walking down bigger opponents. Sanchez compared the Canelo vs. Crawford matchup to Gennady Golovkin's 2016 fight with Kell Brook, a pound-for-pound fantasy that quickly turned grim. Brook started with fast hands, sharp counters, and slick movement, but it didn't matter. Golovkin walked through it all, broke him down, and shattered his orbital bone in brutal fashion. "It'll be competitive for a little while," Sanchez said. But the fight ends somewhere between the 9th and 12th rounds. He was clear. Crawford's speed might give Canelo some early problems, but that's all it'll be, an early distraction. Sanchez also warned that Crawford can't rely on movement and survival tactics to win over the judges.
Outbox Canelo. It depends on what kind of Canelo rocks up, and Canelo is very, very experienced. But at the same time, he's had a lot of fights, which means that, you know, there is a time that you do go downhill as well. So I don't know. It's interesting.
Sanchez believes that, like every fighter, there comes a time when decline sets in. He acknowledges that Canelo is not immune to this reality, but insists that in order to defeat him, Crawford will need to fight in the trenches against a stronger, younger, and more explosive version of Álvarez. Sanchez doesn't think Crawford can survive unless he's prepared for a true war. Of course, some fans point to Canelo's loss to Dmitry Bivol as evidence that his once untouchable aura is fading. They argue that he's vulnerable, especially against fighters with superior footwork and high punch output. But Bivol was a true light heavyweight, taller, with a longer reach, and possessing the ideal game plan. While Crawford may have more technical skill in certain areas, he's a much smaller fighter, moving up 2 weight divisions with no significant bouts in between.
The notion that Terence Bud Crawford should move up 3 weight classes, 21 pounds, to fight Canelo Álvarez. He's entirely too small. Jamel Charlo already proved it.
Crawford acknowledges that he's coming from a smaller weight class, one that's faster and sharper. The reason this fight is happening might be simple: money. Saudi Arabia is funding these bouts to make a splash, and Crawford vs. Canelo isn't about rankings or resumes. It's about putting 2 recognizable names under the brightest lights. The irony here is striking. Canelo might be preparing to face a welterweight turned junior middleweight, now jumping 2 weight classes for a payday, all while sparring with a heavyweight in training camp. Crawford, on the other hand, hasn't earned this fight through the traditional route. But in today's boxing world, tradition doesn't carry the same weight. It's all about names, clicks, and spectacle. Canelo vs. Crawford will sell. In fact, it's already selling.